Hey, Jeremy, you there?
Hey Corey, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, man? I like the Shoemoney Superman sign on the shirt. And what is that? Is that like a you got like a fish tank in the background?
Yep, yes sir. I love fish tanks ever since I was a little kid, and I couldn't really afford. I had like a 10 gallon one, and I always wanted a really big one.
Yeah.
So I got my office, and I got the 50 gallon or 60. I think it's a 60 gallon tank. So it's a little low on water, so it's a little loud, but
I can actually hear the dripping in the background.
yeah.
It's good though. Hey, thanks for taking the time to be on here. I know your big launch of your book. Really excited about it, and I'm real excited to kind of tell some of our audience of what some of the things you're doing right now, and who you are, and kind of where you came from, and I think it's just a fascinating kind of autobiography of your life. It's the shoe money story. And it's interesting, you talk about how really nothing's changed, but you've changed. And how you're kind of the same guy, yet you're just rolling in the dough basically now because you've had some really big wins. But before that, you had a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures, things like that. So let me give our audience maybe just a 10,000-foot view of who you are, and then I just want to ask you a couple of questions, Scots, before you get on to you have a New York Times, another interview after this. So thanks for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so Jeremy is a good friend of mine that I met in a mastermind meeting, and we kind of hit it off. And I'm a nerd, and so is Jeremy. Jeremy's much more of a nerd. You should have seen the headphones that he had on before. It looked like he was a truck driver with these huge headphones on. I can say that with a smile on my face because my brother's actually a truck driver, and he has these massive Bluetooth headphones. Anyway, so Jeremy is a good dude and has a fascinating story. And we hit it off, and I said, "Man, I'd love to get to know you more. What it is you're doing in your business now, and we have a lot of synergy together. I dabble not only just in real estate, although that's my kind of niche I've built our big platform on. However, I also believe in diversification. I have a lot of internet marketing businesses, mobile app businesses, and Jeremy is an expert when it comes to really just an internet marketer, an entrepreneur. And he's also a coder, which makes him even more of a nerd. You actually stayed up many nights at 3 or 4 in the morning drinking Diet Coke. Don't admit you don't have to admit that you did that, but
It was actually Diet Pepsi, but yes, many
Diet Coke.
nights.
Diet Coke. Come on, that's a big argument. Come on, you have to have Diet Coke.
I don't Diet Pepsi.
I don't drink that stuff anymore though. That's like poison for your body. Now it's all alkaline for Mr. Boatwright. So anyway, Jeremy wrote this book, and I'm doing my very best to help you in your effort to make this book number one on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the big platforms out there for you. And autobiography of your life and where you kind of came from, what you're doing now. Really fascinating story, even to the point where you sold a $30 million business. So, Jeremy, first off, I guess the question would be, why did you write this book?
So yeah, it's called Nothing's Changed But Might Change, and it's the shoe money story, and it's really talks about I've had a real crazy life. As a youth, I was in a lot of trouble,
Yeah.
and a lot of various things that got me into trouble. And so the book is really about how a person can have the same mindset as a youth and be a troublemaker, get in trouble, barely make it through high school. But yet they're somewhat smart and intelligent, and they see things that other people don't see. And those things, when you're younger, can get you into trouble because you don't have a lot of resources, right?
You're looking for angles on things.
Right. And I've always talked about, I think the big difference in marketing is just people that see angles. I mean, one of them is I had a fundraiser for my book. Companies could have put in logos for $2,500. I don't know anyone who's ever done that before. And I don't think there has been, but I'm sure everyone's going to steal it. So I had 20 companies do it.
But you donated that money to charity, right? Correct?
Yeah, all the money went to charity.
Fantastic.
So we split it up between a local soup kitchen, a local homeless shelter here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then the Avon Foundation, which is the official charity of Affiliate Marketers Give Back. So we divided up that, and we usually give to those 3 charities every year, kind of. But so to answer your question directly, yeah, the book is really, I think the biggest takeaway about it is for a lot of people out there. I've had people tell me it's the saddest story, it's the funniest story, and it's the most inspirational story they've ever read. And I think that comes from, as a youth, I was extremely overweight. My life plan was pretty much to be dead by the time I was 30. I just kind of accepted that was my fate. I was 420 pounds, smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And it was a freaking disaster.
Wow.
I actually, before I had weight loss surgery, I was on oxygen, like, to sleep, and CPAP mask and all that. I was in super bad shape. And then all of a sudden I met a woman that really just, totally changed my life. And so, but the only difference is that she kind of just helped me focus on the things that, she came up with this slogan, which she called the 3 Ps, which was prioritize the potentially profitable projects. I guess it's actually 4 Ps. But she did that to me all the time because I'd get distracted by these, the thing is when you can program, even if it's basic stuff. You can do graphics, even if it's basic stuff. When you see fun things, you just gravitate towards them.
Sure.
And you actually get away from the things that are making you money with your skill set. So, yeah, and so then after her, I worked at a bank and worked as a security administrator for years. And while there, created a website about mobile stuff and built an application that allowed people to convert ringtones and all this and that. And anyway, build into the biggest mobile community on the internet. And so from there, I learned how to monetize and make money. I learned how to make money through contextual. I was on unemployment, actually. Got a call from Google, and they said, we think you make a lot of money if you use our products. And I was like, okay, what is it? It was Google AdSense at the time. Put the code on there. And a couple months later, I was on unemployment and, got a $130,000 check. So if you want to see a weird look on a teller's face, walk in there after you've been bouncing checks for months and
oh my gosh.
Your bank account.
Wow.
The guy even said, I don't know whether to call the police or have the president come out and shake your hand.
So you go from unemployed, or actually you go from working at a bank to being unemployed, and then Google giving you a call. How did Google find you?
They just called me. They called the contact number for my mobile website. So they have, they just had people that were in charge of just like go out there, crawl, look at Alexa numbers, see if advertising, and then call the number that's listed for their site and see if you can get them to put in AdSense code. I assume that's what it was.
So back in the day, the AdSense was a big play for you for Google, and they saw that you were someone that was up and coming. They gave you a call. Not too long after that, you started to do well with their program, and all of a sudden you have a 6-figure. You have a huge paycheck. You come in to the bank in cash.
Yeah, along with a unemployment check, because I was on unemployment at the time. Felt like a $280 unemployment check and $130,000 check from Google. So, and that was obviously the last week I was on unemployment.
Yeah.
So
after that, pretty much done.
Yeah, after that, I pretty much called them and said I got a job, and they were like, how much are you making? I said, I don't know yet, but this is what I got for this month, and so
I'm gonna really back in here for just a second because I love talking to you, and one of the things that we can do is just go off, and I want to stay focused on this for especially the value of keeping everybody's attention on you and what you're doing. I'm going to throw something at you in a way that I just want you to look at it from a standpoint of whenever someone reads this book, they might come off with the sense that you're a scammer. Or you scammed a lot during your day. You saw those angles, you saw those things. That's not the impression you want to leave people with when they read this book. But obviously, that was some of that intentional in there. Or you just being vulnerable and just open. I'm saying, here's my life. I was looking at all these different angles, and I actually scammed a lot of different situations. I got into situations where I scammed people. not the impression you want to leave people, but do you see where that could come from?
Yeah, I mean, in the book, there's two instances I talked about as a youth that I saw an angle, and one was an insurance deal that I did with a friend it was actually pretty ingenious from a criminal perspective, I guess maybe. But it was, I was young, and it was what it is, and
Yeah.
and then I talk about when I worked for Best Buy, and I came up with a brilliant scheme to get, tons of stuff, and then I was actually charged with like something like $50,000 in fraud, theft, and stuff like that. And so I was actually found innocent on that charge. So you have to read about it in the book because after that, Best Buy had to implement several different nationwide policies for employees and returning products. So yeah, it's an interesting thing in the book, and now you'll be like, so that's the son of a bitch who. That's the reason why I have to.
It's you.
I return stuff. So, but I mean, scam's a word that's commonly thrown around in the industry now. I didn't scam people per se. I mean, I guess you could say whatever. The bottom line is that it is what it is, and people can. I'm just blunt honest about it.
Sure.
Form your own opinion. I mean, we've all made mistakes as a kid. I mean, I made several, and I'm the first one to say it. And that's kind of the thing is nothing's changed from my changes. You take the whole mindset that I have of seeing angles and doing all this stuff, but now you take that mindset and you apply it to the resources we have available and the time that we are in, where you can actually get a free WordPress blog or blogspot thing and turn that into a multi-million-dollar company. And I've known, 5 people off the top of my head that I've worked with who have done just that. And I got a $200 server and, off of things, and I was making, deep 6 figures a month off of $200 a month. And when has that ever existed?
Sure.
So my whole point is that nothing's changed, is that the mindset that as a youth I could still be in jail for some of the stupid stuff I did.
Right.
Exactly the same mindset, but seeing like ways to create companies and products that help people, and I mean, I've built a brand by giving value to people, not by scamming people, right? And so it's just the only difference is now I have the money to actually invest in something. Now I have resources to do stuff, and now I have, I'm just such an obsessive compulsive person. So what people will walk away with is what they will. I've heard nothing but like really positive stuff, and not. This is a great question though, because I just got asked this by a Wall Street Journal reporter. This was the exact question, because I told her to read like these specific chapters in the book where I talk about these bad things I did as a youth. But
I mean, like you almost went to jail. You were on the witness protection program. I mean, like these are not things, not the everyday youth kid gets necessarily involved in. This was pretty serious.
Yeah, there's several things as a youth. I mean,
you were in a cocaine deal one time. Like you got shot up. You were on the ground, bullets flying everywhere. I mean,
yeah, I had gotten into electronic car audio as a youth. I was fascinated by it. Went to school, got certified and all this stuff when I was 18. Came back, worked for this car audio shop. The guy who owned it happened to be this major cocaine distributor, and I had no knowledge of this. I mean, you kind of could get hints here and there, obviously, but really didn't know that he was a huge cocaine distributor. I'd only worked for him for a couple months. So one day, long story short, the full details are in the book. It's a long story, but about the whole event and stuff. But yeah, these guys came in and just, I guess the deal went bad, and they completely just lit up the place with Uzis, and and then walked through, and I'm underneath a car, and I'm at the time, I was very overweight. And the dude looked down, he actually saw my eyes, and I thought for sure I was dead, and he walked away. But because I saw him, the police and actually like FBI and stuff, they wanted to put me in witness protection. I actually didn't, it was kind of a makeshift kind of thing at first. But then I actually didn't go into the program because I was still on the witness list, but the guys died actually before they could capture them. So nothing ever came of it. But I did have to move to Ohio because of it. which is a whole nother chapter in the book, is a crazy chapter about my times living in Ohio. Is absolutely, I've had just a crazy, crazy life.
Sure.
But I know a lot of people have had a crazy life. And so I think that a lot of people, when they see someone like me who've had successful companies and built multi-million-dollar companies, they think, oh, well, I can't do that because he had all these. I mean, you hear it, Corey, right? You hear it all the time where, like, well, you had this and I have this and there's just nothing I can do. And they make up excuses. But I think when you hear my story, and it's not only where I've come from, but like the positions I've been in, that should have set me up for some really bad things. Just being able to just take action, in a very short amount of time, just turning my life around drastically.
It's so interesting you're mentioning this because I'm just now coming to this fruition and this awareness as we're having this interview of how we connected such a deeper way than just, hey, what's going on, man? Talk to you later. Like, it's because I relate so much with you. I also was into really bad things in my youth, and I always saw angles. And I think this whole seeing angles thing, quote unquote, scam, it can actually use your good powers for good or for evil. Obviously, you and I used them for evil in the beginning. And then, just like you, I sold, my company for $4 million. I grew a company to $4 million and sold it. You grew yours up to $30 million and sold it. We turned around and used these kind of powers that we learned for good, and could find different angles and poke holes and things to be able to grow businesses substantially. And I think that's the heartbeat of this book. When I really think about this concept in the heart of the book, is you don't have to be someone that was Mr. Goody Two Shoes. You didn't make mistakes and all this stuff to be this massively successful person. You can make a lot of mistakes. You can really fail, which I believe is just nothing more than just learning. You can fail yourself to success. You can fail yourself to a lifetime of freedom, which is what you have now for you and your family, and it can all come to a place where there's a tipping point, and at that there's this crucial point in all of our lives where there's a tipping point. I know what that is for me, but this interview is for you. What was that tipping point in your life where you're like, the light went off, man, I don't have to be this guy that's doing all this, using my powers for evil. I can use it for good and make a lot of money and help a lot of people, cause a lot of impact. What was that tipping point for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was kind of like a long tipping point. I mean, even after I got the $100,000 AdSense check and started to really bring in money, I mean, financially that was a major tipping point, and that was just because my wife kept me focused, on this task and really believed that what I was doing. I mean, there was a couple 100,000 visitors a day that would visit this mobile community I'd built, and and it was. I knew it was really successful, and I didn't know how much money it could make. So a real tipping point for me, though, was probably a couple years even after that AdSense check in 2007, when I built my first, which is Auction Ads, which is the company that you're referring to that did really well. And just so we're clear, I can't disclose the price that was in the sale agreement that it sold for.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of rumors out there and whatnot, so I can't. You can come to your own conclusion, but I'm not supposed to say what that sale price was. But I can say that when I sold it, it was doing about $2 million a month in revenue and had about 25,000 active publishers. So it was really when I built that was when it was a huge tipping point for me, because it was my first actual real product and real, before I had a website, cool, I threw up AdSense, awesome. I figured out, affiliate marketing. I was able to, and this is part of the seeing angles thing, is that, I noticed okay, these people are paying this much to be on my website, then what are they doing? Figuring out, okay, they're affiliate marketers. I'm just going to do that direct. Now I'm making 30% more. And then it was okay, well, they're bidding on keywords. How does that work? Got into pay-per-click. And then I figured out okay, because I have this ringtone website, it's getting, an average 20,000 searches a day that people are searching inside my site. I have access to data to bid on keywords that nobody else has. In real time, people are searching for this stuff. So, this is data that people get weeks down the road from Google or scraping other things.
Sure.
So, it's just like seeing angles and taking action when you see them. That really, really was the tipping point for me. I mean, it was really after the AdSense check. And I know a lot of people were like, well, that's, how could that be? But I mean, honestly, it was, I really, after the AdSense check even, I thought any day people were going to bang down the door and be like, okay, you were never meant to be successful. You were taking this back, and sorry, it was just like, it's kind of like when people win the lottery and they just blow it all because they never like were prepared for success.
Sure.
I wasn't. And it was a confidence thing. I had no experience or education. I mean, I barely graduated high school, in like running a business. I'd go and, I made some, I wouldn't say bad financial decisions, because I was making enough that, but it really, like, my wife was there too. So it was really her that, until auction ads came about, that was a tipping point for me, because before that, it was like my wife was kind of like overlooking the company money, so I couldn't really do much. But even though I would blow some, $5,000 tabs here and there, and smart, whereas more physically responsible. Like, well, now I have a bunch of employees here. I have obligations and responsibilities
Sure.
To them, and I'm very involved in our finances, and and really it's been an evolution itself. So it's hard to answer your question directly. I mean, meeting my wife was absolutely the biggest tipping point. I don't know if it's a tipping point, but a pivot point. Like, there's a movie called The Correction Bureau, or what the hell is it called? The something Bureau with Matt Damon in it. It's like the Correction Bureau or something like that. Anyway, the whole point of the movie is that your life is set on this course, and that when it gets off course, then these guys come back and they get you back on course.
Sure.
So the adjustment, that's what it's called. So it's a great movie.
Yeah.
In the movie, like, the guy was never supposed to meet this girl, and he like happened to bump into her, and so then his took a drastic course. Well, I feel the same way, and the whole story about how I met my wife, and it's a crazy story in itself. And
I know that's one for you personally. Just on this business kind of tipping point is what I was really kind of asking about, for sure. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously you get a big check, but then it kind of just gives you more fuel to, like, if I can get this check, then I could really do something even more impactful. And then when you're starting to generate $1 million, $2 million a month from anything you do, I mean, it's substantial. Now you're really moving to another level. And I think it's just such a great story that somebody that barely graduated from high school, I didn't even graduate from high school, yet, in a couple months I'm going to go speak at Harvard. And I don't really consider myself to be a genius or anything like that. Just like when I was talking to you, like, hey, I wasn't particularly great in academics or barely graduated with this, but just seeing angles in and itself can be a little bit of a genius thing. I think all of us kind of have our own geniuses, and I think the value of the book when people read this is that they're going to discover maybe what their genius is, what their angle is to themselves, to how they can contribute that and how they can serve others. Because at the end of the day, the tipping point in my life is the light bulb went off, and it was like, wow, serving others is the secret to life. It was just nothing more than that simple thing. Serving others is the secret to life. And I've realized that whenever I can get my mind off myself, and I can really look at who I'm impacting and the value that I can contribute to their lives, because I see that angle. I'm outside of the forest, and they're in the forest. They're walking in the forest. I'm outside of the forest, so I can see those angles. That's where I can provide the greatest elevated view to be able to see the pieces of the puzzle, to put them together. And that, on the other end for them, they can do the same thing. I'm in my forest. They can get elevated view and altitude and look and see the pieces of the puzzle and put them together. So the book is about putting the pieces of the puzzle together from an elevated view and discovering your angles, and then realizing that, wow, it really can happen. Look at this guy. He came from literally not a great background. He almost got killed. He was involved with all of these things. I think at some level, if you were a little bit rebellious as a kid, you can relate with that. There are some pieces of that are all in all of us growing up. And you're still really young, a guy. I'm excited about all the things that you're going to contribute and serve and impact the world with. I think that you're scratching the surface, Jeremy. When we talk, I'm so it's such a cool thing to be able to have you see those different angles in the different things that I'm doing and the things that you're doing me the same way. And I think that's how we create that synergy, is from those angles. So, and I think when people read this book, that's what they're going to walk away with, is how can I serve others with the angles that I can see in their lives, but also how can I see that angle in my life? What's the biggest, if I moved away the stick from the boulder on the hill and let all of that roll down, what is that one thing I could pull out? What is my biggest strength that I could provide value and focus on that one thing, get really good at it, and provide others with that value? And I know that's a big thing of what you've done, man.
Thanks, man. That's really nice to say. I like the way you say like the puzzle pieces, because I never really thought of it like that, but that's an excellent way to say it. Is that it's not. I always tell people, because I've created some products and whatnot that have sold well, and I've said, I'm like, this book is not a how to make money online book. This is my autobiography.
It's your life. Yeah.
But I think, but with saying that, I mean, the disclaimer is kind of like, but obviously it's got the mindset that I had and to get where I'm at. But like you said, it's the pieces to the puzzle, and putting it together. And I mean, a big motto that I have is just do what others are not willing to do. When you see angles, take it, do what others are not willing to do. And this is for me. I'm not telling people out there what to do. I can just share what's been successful for me. And that's really what the book is about. It's just sharing experiences and what you learn from them and all kinds of different things.
Yeah, and no wussies allowed too. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to be a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you're a wussy, you're going to fail and you're going to get out quickly.
If you're not willing. I love that you said that. I talk to people all the time, blog world, whatever. I gave a keynote speech at Philly Summit last year. And, people come up to me and they're like, hey, I've got a blog, and, how do you get people to read your blog? And I said, honestly, I just be honest, and I stick it out there, and I do things that people wouldn't do. Like I talk about how painful it was to be fat as a kid. I talk about like how I was super addicted to these role-play MMO RPGs, and I literally lost like 2 years of my life in there, and just what it was like and all this other stuff. I talk about like why you need to embrace bad press, but at the same time in that post, I talk about like how depressed I got when the first time somebody like ripped me apart on the internet. And then I talked about how then I seen the results of it, and people like come to my defense that I've helped and met in person and, worked with. And then I started talking, and I also talked to a good friend of mine, John Reese, who some of you may know.
John's great. Awesome guy.
And he was just telling me, he said, Jeremy, your approval rating is way better than any president in the history of our country. So he's like, so just keep that in mind. And it's funny when you put kind of that in perspective of like, you're always going to have that factor. And I tell that to people all the time. I say, when I read your blog, it's boring. You talk about news, you talk whatever. You don't, I call it stick your pecker, for lack of a word. When you're opinionated, people care about what you say.
Yeah.
When you're echoing news, they can go and read that on, any news site.
I think that that's a great way to kind of conclude the interview here, man, is that polarization. You rather be hot or cold. You rather you put your view out there. Not everybody's going to love it, but that's what makes you special and unique in such a cool way, is that there's only one Jeremy Shoemaker in this world. There's not another. There's only one Corey Boatwright in the world, and there's only one whoever is listening or watching this right now. There's only one of you in the world. And if I can leave this interview with something, is go embrace your angles. Go embrace your angles. Find out how you can serve others, and understand that not everybody's going to agree with that. But if you focus 100% on your value, what you can do to help others, you can cause the greatest impact, and it literally is the secret to life. You have the better relationships in your life, You'll have the best opportunities open up in your life. And guess what? The ones that don't need to be there, the doors will be shut too. So just embrace your angles. I think that's a great way to end this. Thank you for taking the time. Jeremy, man, I look forward to talking with you and hear about you doing bigger things. By the way, really quick, they need to go to shortselology.com/shoemoney. And if they do that, besides just going to Amazon, you can go to Amazon if you want, but what we're doing, if you go to shortselology.com, that's shortselology.com/shoemoney, SHOEMONEY, you actually are giving away a course, and you've sold these courses, and it's selling actually right now, but they have a special coupon that it has an expiration, and it's going on till the 15th of January, right? So it's a week from right now. We're doing this interview on the 8th. So the week from right now, this link will no longer work to get this course, correct?
Yep. So with the course, I've sold almost 900 now in the last couple months, and it's $97.
Okay.
And it's got a 5-star, 4.5-star review, and it's and one of the hot selling courses on all of Udemy. So when you buy the book, whether you buy this link or Amazon, then just send your receipt to Corey, right? Corey, or it's a certain email.
What's that?
Is there what email should I send it to?
It's in the receipt. Send the receipt over to support@shortselology.com. Shortselology.com.
Yeah, when he gets that, he's going to get you a link that's going to give you the local marketing blueprint part for free. Absolutely free.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for doing that. You don't have to do that. And that really is not a freebie. I mean, you're selling that right now, so that link expires on the 15th. So go to shortselology.com/shoemoney and get the special course. It makes a lot of sense if you do that. Certainly, you can go to Amazon and just type in Jeremy Shoemaker, and let's get this book for you, #1, man. I want to see you a bestseller, buddy.
Thanks, brother. It's good talking to you as always.
All right. Talk to you later, man. Remember to be a servant. Thanks again, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.